Haber is confusing because it actually has two very different uses. One is like have, but not for possession, and the other is used impersonally to express existence. Now, if you don't get this distinction, you're going to struggle to use Haber correctly. So, in this video, I'm going to break down the two uses of Haber in all the most common tenses, so that by the end, you'll confidently be able to use it in conversation. Now, if you're new here, my name's Josh. I'm a qualified language teacher and I've helped thousands of people learn Spanish through my online course right here on YouTube. Okay, so let's get started. So the first use of haber is as an auxiliary verb, which simply means that it's a helper verb. In English, we translate it as have. As a helper verb, haber works together with another verb to form what's called a compound tense. A tense that's made up of two verbs that combine to express a single action or state. Now, a helper verb doesn't carry the main meaning on its own. Its job is to work alongside another verb form to create that compound tense. In English, that's exactly what have and has do in sentences like I have eaten, she has lived, they have arrived. In each of those examples, have or has is simply helping to build the tense. It doesn't express the action by itself. The main meaning comes from the second verb, the past participle, which are eaten, lived, and arrived in those sentences. When have or has in the present tense is paired with a past participle, we get what's called the present perfect tense. So, in the sentence, I have eaten, have is a helper verb and eaten is the main verb in the past participle form. Have doesn't tell us what happened, eaten does. Now, Spanish works in exactly the same way. When we use haber as a helper verb, we're creating compound tenses, combinations of two verbs that together describe a completed action. Now, before we look at a few example sentences, I first want to show you how the verb haber is conjugated in the present tense. I need to show you this because these are the forms you'll use to build the present perfect tense in Spanish. Now, haber is a highly irregular verb in the present tense and it looks like this. Yo he, I have. Tú has, you have. Él o ella ha, he or she has. Nosotros hemos, we have. Ellos han, they have. Once you know these forms, you can combine them with a past participle to form complete sentences in the present perfect tense. Here are some examples. Yo he comido, I have eaten. Ella ha vivido, she has lived. Ellos han llegado, they have arrived. In those example sentences, haber is conjugated in the present tense, and it's followed by another verb in the past participle form. In Spanish, past participles usually end in ado, ado for AR verbs, and ido, IDO for ER and IR verbs. Now, the present perfect tense is used for completed actions in the past that have relevance in the present. For example, if we take what we saw previously, I have eaten, we could put that into a sentence and say, I have eaten too much ice cream and now I feel sick. So that sentence shows how the past action of eating too much ice cream affects the present situation of now feeling sick. So the verb haber, meaning have, when combined with a past participle, expresses something that occurred in the past but still matters now. Haber, like the verb have in English, doesn't add meaning. They simply provide grammatical structure. If you're not very familiar with grammatical terms like the present perfect tense, I think it's worth mentioning that the word present in the term present perfect tense refers to the fact that haber is in the present tense. And the word perfect in the term present perfect tense comes from the Latin word perfectus, which means completed. Completed as in the action is finished. Knowing this will help you to always remember what the term present perfect tense means. Now, so far in this video, we've only been looking at the present perfect tense, where we conjugate haber in the present tense. But haber can also be used to form other perfect tenses, such as the past perfect tense, the future perfect tense, and the conditional perfect tense. To do this, you simply conjugate haber in the past tense, the future tense, or the conditional tense, and then you pair it with a past participle like we did before. For example, here's the past perfect tense using the past participle hablado, which is from the verb hablar, meaning to speak. Yo había hablado. I had spoken. Tú habías hablado. You had spoken. Él o ella había hablado. He or she had spoken. Nosotros habíamos hablado. We had spoken. Ellos habían hablado. They had spoken. Notice how hablado never changes. What does change is the conjugation of the verb haber, which in this case is in the past imperfect form. So pairing the past imperfect form of haber with a past participle gives us the past perfect tense. Okay, so let's look at the future perfect tense. To form the future perfect, we conjugate haber in the future tense and pair it with a past participle. Using the same verb hablar, it looks like this. Yo habré hablado. I will have spoken. Tú habrás hablado. You will have spoken. Él o ella habrá hablado. He or she will have spoken. Nosotros habremos hablado. We will have spoken. Ellos habrán hablado. They will have spoken. Notice again that hablado doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the form of haber, which here is in the future tense. Pairing the future form of haber with a past participle gives us the future perfect tense, which is used to describe actions that will have been completed at some point in the future. Now let's look at the conditional perfect tense, which works in a very similar way. To form the conditional perfect, we conjugate haber in the conditional tense and pair it with a past participle. Using the verb hablar, it looks like this. Yo habría hablado. I would have spoken. Tú habrías hablado. You would have spoken. Él o ella habría hablado. He or she would have spoken. Nosotros habríamos hablado. We would have spoken. Ellos habrían hablado. They would have spoken. Now notice once again that hablado never changes. The only thing that changes is the form of haber, which here is in the conditional tense. Pairing the conditional form of haber with a past participle gives us the conditional perfect tense, which is used to describe actions that would have happened under certain circumstances. Now, if you want a handy reference for everything we're covering in this video, I've made a free PDF that you can download. It's perfect for reviewing later at your own pace. You'll find the link down in the description below. Okay, so now that we've looked at haber as an auxiliary verb, let's now look at its second use as an impersonal verb. Being an impersonal verb means that it doesn't refer to a specific person. Instead, it simply expresses existence. In English, we express this as there is or there are. To say there is or there are in Spanish, it's hay, H-A-Y, hay. Let me show you how it works. For example, to say two books in Spanish, it's dos libros. Now, if we wanted to say there are two books, we would just insert the word hay before it, and that would give us hay dos libros. For example, hay 2 libros en mi mochila. There are 2 books in my backpack. Now notice something important. I never changes for singular or plural. For example, hay un libro en mi mochila. There is 1 book in my backpack. Or, hay 2 libros en mi mochila. There are 2 books in my backpack. Hay means both there is and there are. So whenever you want to state that something exists, regardless of singular or plural, use I. Okay, so when we want to talk about the past, in English we express this as there was or there were. Now Spanish has 2 different verb tenses in the past to express there was and there were. The first is HABÍA, which is in the imperfect tense. It's used for ongoing, repeated or descriptive situations in the past. For example, había un gato en el jardín. There was a cat in the garden. Or, había 3 gatos en el jardín. There were 3 cats in the garden. The second form is HUBO, which is the preterite tense. This tense is used for completed events in the past. For example, hubo un accidente en la carretera ayer. There was an accident on the road yesterday. Or, hubo 2 accidentes en la carretera ayer. There were 2 accidents on the road yesterday. A key thing to remember is that both había and hubo always stay singular, no matter if the noun that follows is singular or plural. Now, the difference between había and hubo can be tricky for English speakers because both are translated as there was or there were. So if you want a more detailed explanation of the differences and when to use each one, check out my video linked in the description. Okay, so we can also talk about future existence with the impersonal haber. For this, we use the future form HABRÁ, which means there will be. For example, habrá una reunión mañana. There will be a meeting tomorrow. Or, habrá 5 reuniones mañana. There will be 5 meetings tomorrow. Now notice again how HABRÁ stays the same, whether we're talking about one thing or many things. It never changes. HABRÁ is always singular. Next, we can also use haber to talk about hypothetical situations. For this, we use the conditional form HABRÍA, which means there would be. For example, habría un problema si no estudiáramos. There would be a problem if we didn't study. Or, habría muchos problemas si no estudiáramos. There would be many problems if we didn't study. Again, notice that habría stays exactly the same. Whether it's one thing or several things, the noun that follows doesn't affect the verb. Habría never changes. It's always singular. Now, even after watching this video, you might still feel a bit confused about all the different forms of haber, especially when it comes to había and hubo, or the future and conditional forms. And that's completely normal. Spanish learners often get tripped up by this. But the key is to practice these forms in real sentences, so you can use them naturally and confidently in conversation. That's exactly what my beginner Spanish course helps you to do. It guides you step by step to build full sentences from the very first lesson, using verbs like haber in context. You can check out my course for free right here on YouTube by clicking the thumbnail that's on screen now or by following the link that's in the description. So, thanks for watching and I'll see you next week.